we are the ones that put on these lovely monthly workshops, everything from, as you've seen today, career development, to your academic success with our writing skills workshops, and then even some social ones such as our Lunchbox series, and then even in the future we'll do some more dating panels for those of you who sat in on those in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and start with some prayer. So Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this time. God, we thank you for allowing us to be here in this room. I pray that you open up our minds to all of this information that we're about to receive, God, and I pray that we just have an overflow of information that allows us to be fully successful as we move forward in the path that you've created and called us to do, God. Please bless this time, bless this food, and thank you again for everyone that is here, God. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So I'm going to go ahead and just pass off the mic because these are our experts. If y'all could just give them at least a light round of applause to start us off. It's such a blessing that they're here. So if y'all could just tell us your name, where you are now, who you work with now, and then a little bit of your background that kind of makes you maybe a quote-unquote expert on this topic.
That looks heavy, like it carries some weight. My name is Kelly Sherby. I'm the Executive Director of Goldie's House and the Dallas Initiatives for Unlikely Heroes. We're an anti-trafficking organization. Our offices are just a few blocks down the street on White's Chapel and the 114 Access Road. We're both international and local. We run 7 restoration homes for child victims of human trafficking. And our USA home is right here in Tarrant County. I've been with them for a little over a year. Prior to that, I was the Freedom Pastor at the Frisco campus for Gateway Church. Worked with this guy a little bit, and that guy down there, with about almost everybody here. So I was in ministry for 7 years with Gateway before coming on with Unlikely Heroes. And then prior to that, I actually worked in higher education. I worked at TCU and at Kansas State. So I love young adults. I love doing career development. I love doing all kinds of development with as far as paths and identity and figuring out what you're called to do and then actually how to get there as well. So.
You set the bar high.
Sorry.
That was good. My name is Stokes Collins. I work with Gateway. I'm at the North Richland Hills campus. Yeah. I've been with Gateway for about 8 years. I've had multiple different roles. I've been managed and I've been a manager. I've done both sides of that. Prior to coming to Gateway, I've owned 2 businesses, one a success, one a failure. I've worked in customer service. I've worked in sales. I've done all kinds of stuff. Interviewed for a whole lot of jobs. Gotten a handful of them, not gotten a handful of them. And so I think for me today, the contribution is experience. I think it's just walking through that and sharing our experience with you is probably the biggest part. So thanks for having us.
Hello, my name is Brianna Hinojosa Smith, and I'm a patent attorney, a senior patent attorney at Microsoft, so a little different. I'm actually here to learn from all of you guys. You sound like great experts. My background is I have an undergrad in electrical engineering. I have a law degree and an MBA, and I was just asked if I love what I do, and I do love what I do. I have the opportunity to work on really cool technology, and I manage a team of attorneys that works on HoloLens and virtual reality, augmented reality technology, working on artificial intelligence, Surface, and Xbox. So we recently got an Xbox because, of course, my son was like, "Why don't we have one if that's what you do?" That is a great question. So he knew a lot more about it than I did, and I'm trying to learn. I kind of like has been mentioned, my experience, I'm not going to say I'm an expert in it, but I do have the opportunity to interview people that work in my industry, as well as to serve on boards and commissions that I serve on as well. I'm also a city council member in Coppell, so I'm in public service. I chair the board of Las Planas Medical Center Hospital, and so I've had some interviewing experience. Kind of like Stokes mentioned, I've gotten some positions or jobs, and some others I haven't. I think we learn from every opportunity that we have, and I hope that I can share some of those experiences with you.
That was pretty good. Can we come over and play Xbox?
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Mondo Davis. I'm the campus pastor at the North Fort Worth campus, and I've been at Gateway Church now for 6 years, 4 of those years on staff, and I've served in a number of different roles, and in this current role, it's been about 18 months. My background, I am an ex-professional football player. It was a very short career, but a lot of fun. My wife the opportunity to help and coach people and put people in a position to be successful is a huge honor to serve in that capacity. So we're very excited that you're here, and we just believe that God is going to do something powerful in you to help prepare you for what God has for you as well.
A little bit of preaching coming out there. So good. Hi, my name is Paulette Gillespie, and I'm a director in HR at Gateway Church. I've been with Gateway for about 5 years, and I think something that is so exciting about getting to sit on this panel today is last year our team created a new interviewing process for Gateway. As most of y'all can imagine, the line is pretty long to work at Gateway, and the Lord is calling people from all over, honestly, not just the country, but the world to be a part of the ministry that's taking place there. So we wanted to have a system in place that would really be able to allow the Lord to speak into his choice for positions, and for that not just to reside within skill qualification or resume or even just what one particular person felt about a candidate, but to let the Lord speak through the multitude of voices. So we are so excited about what that process looks like, and it being a process that regardless of whether you actually get the job or not, that you are blessed and affirmed and encouraged even walking through the process. Prior to coming to Gateway, I was a high school principal for about a decade, and in all honesty, it was great preparation for going into ministry. And I'm glad to be here today.
Thank you all so much. Paula, I loved what you just said. My background is, some of you know this, in rapid recruiting. If anyone's familiar with the recruiting industry, you basically spend hours just looking at resumes and trying to find the one, I guess, gold nugget in all of the coal, and you just rapid call. You know, or at my last job, they would actually send us daily reports of how long we were on the phone. And they wanted to see more phone calls and less time on the phone, which was really hard for me because for me, I wanted to get to know the people. I wanted to know their background. I wanted to know what they were doing. And so I love that you said that y'all wanted to take more time to make sure they always felt affirmed when they left, because that was a huge reason I left my last job, because it was more of next, next, next. So we're so honored that all of you are here. Now I just would love to ask to start kind of the process moving into the interview. What do each of you feel is the most impactful part of the interview process?
I think the most impactful part of the interview process is learning more about who you guys are when you're showing up. I want to know who you are, and I actually want to know something memorable about you, that when I think back to the multitude of people that I've seen that day, something sticks out. I also want to see like confidence and humility. So just in that, being able to present yourself well, not in a way that's like overly presented, but just that real like natural, I know who I am, I know what I bring to the table, I don't need you to validate me, this is what I have, this is who I am. To me, that just speaks, who you are speaks so much more than like what your resume says. So I actually want to get to know who you are and what that little nugget is that makes you unique.
So I'd say mine's got a little bit of Gateway filter on it, which you're going to get some of that from some of us. But it's funny because the three of us sat in an interview today with someone prior to coming to this, and so my brain's going to what was I looking for today as we sat in that interview, and it's really similar to what Kelly said. For me, in particular, I'm looking for transparency. Not just ability to share difficult stories, but how comfortable are you with you? And are you able to bring yourself to the table and just frankly to arm you with the ability to be able to bring that to an interview, as only God can really tell you who you are. That answer must come from the Lord. It doesn't matter if you're going into a ministry role or a non-ministry role. It doesn't matter. Like, you need to bring you to the table, because that's what people are really looking for anyway. And interviewers, somebody at that interview table, if you're sitting through a panel interview, will be able to see through the walls that you are putting up. And it'll come out in questions like, I just didn't really feel like I could know them, like Kelly said. And they won't really be able to put their finger on it, but as they're processing you, like, be prepared as you come into those meetings. Not just prepared with, this is how great I am, but you need to be prepared to say that, because that's what they're looking for. But also, this is where I struggle, and this is where the Lord's working on me, and this is where this is going on. So I don't want to just blanket say transparency, but transparency with that, right? Like, how do you bring you to the table?
your resume, you know, you're gonna write down your experience, your education. You're already there because you're qualified, but who are you? And I agree with Kelly in that I really wanna know about you. I wanna know what makes you tick, what drives you, what's your passion? What is it that you're there to, what do you wanna learn? You may come into this position and may not know everything that's in the job description, but why are you there? Why are you passionate about it? And I really want to know who you are so that I can remember you when you walk out. I'm gonna be like, yeah, that's a person that I really want here, and that you're just you add to the culture, just who you are.
Such great answers. I would say this: preparation time is never wasted time. And the tendency is to think about coming in with the right answers. But that's not what the interviewers are looking for. What we're looking for is a person who's prepared their heart. So what I would say is prepare your heart in advance to be genuine, authentic, and honest and transparent. And when you look at studies for people who are in an organization and they're loyal to that organization, the reason why most times is because they have a leader who is transparent. And when people come across someone who's honest, genuine, authentic, and transparent, they have a deeper level of loyalty and commitment. If you can communicate that by allowing what's in your heart to come out in an interview, it's going to put you head and shoulders above the rest. Everyone's looked at your resume, everyone's prepared for you to come in and just run through your resume and just be a talking head. What's going to make you stand out is they have your resume. It's just like a big business card. You don't need to review that. They've already reviewed it in advance. You need to come in prepared to give them a memory or something about yourself that's going to make you stand out, that's genuine and authentic. Bring the fullness of who you are, and that will set you above the competition.
Amen. To just really reiterate so much of what has been said is that in every interview setting, what I am looking for are the unscripted answers. We come up with questions that will help so that you can answer in a way that you haven't thought about it beforehand, so that it is something that comes purely from your heart. Something we open up every interview with is take 6 to 8 minutes and just tell us about yourself. It's very difficult for someone to prepare that in advance, and that's the whole intention of it. It's just to give you an opportunity and a space to just share what's on your heart. I also highly encourage, anytime you go to an interview, to just remember that many times, or really most cases, people go to that interview feeling vulnerable, that this decision is up to a hiring manager. And if you'll go to an interview knowing that it's about you making a decision as well as that interviewer making a decision, so that you don't go with this eagerness, to this even desperation to get the job. You're going to interview them to see, is this a company that I want to be a part of? Is there character within this team? If they offered me the job, would I say yes? And that puts you in a position of power. It puts you in a position to hear the Lord. Even if they offer you the job, there's still a decision to be made. Do I like these people? Did I feel that if the culture was something I could be a part of? So if you'll switch your mindset from feeling vulnerable and that they have all the power, and understanding that they're being interviewed by you, it will help you change your entire format.
So I'm gonna kind of pop around on y'all just because of some of the things that you said. Can y'all hear me okay if I just ask the questions? Awesome. So I heard a couple of things about, to tell you about yourself, how to prepare. So I'd love to just start, and not everyone has to answer, whoever feels comfortable. How do you prepare for an interview, say the day before and even as you walk into that interview?
That's right. So, do you want me to talk on the mic or just?
It'd be for the recording.
I'll talk on the mic then. So Mondo and I have a super unique experience. So I want to start with this. So we have 6 campus pastors in all of the church right now, and in all of Gateway. And being interviewed for a campus pastor role right now has a name for it. This is a private name, so don't go publishing this everywhere. But it's called getting Mondoed. So when Pastor Mondo went through his interview process, it was 10 straight hours?
7 hours and 3 minutes.
7 hours and 3 minutes of interviews in one day. In one day, he sat through that. I was the next one to go through the interview process. So his process took a day. My process took 90 days. And so when you ask that question, like, how do you prepare, which this is a different role, we understand that. but I don't know that a day is sufficient. Like, I think I'm not saying just to prepare, like, yes, you need to be prepared, and a day is probably enough. When you're talking about preparing your heart, there has to be more than just a day. Like Paulette's challenge towards you is to really come in with, what am I going to ask? And where is my heart today? Do I need this job in order to be able to feel okay about myself? Like that has to be wrestled with the Holy Spirit. You got to wrestle that with the Lord and really let Him do that. So that's your preparation that you come into. I had the unique experience of being able to have lunch with Mondo in the middle of getting Mondoed. He was so raw and just ready and just, it was tough. It was a tough day. And you're going to go through experiences like that. You're going to have tough interviews. And so having your heart prepared in the sense of, Lord, am I okay? So I think that's thing one. I think you're asking a different question, like practically, how do you prepare? But I really think it starts with really preparing your heart and doing that hard work with the Lord before you begin to put things down on paper. Where am I, God? Are there questions you want to ask me prior to me going in here? And because I'm telling you, somebody in the interview process, regardless of what the job is going to hit you with one of these hard questions that feels like it might be coming from heaven. Because it's going to challenge you. It's going to hit your heart. You're going to have to wrestle through it. And if you do some of that work with the Lord, you can come in and go, okay, I can stand up in who I am, and I can answer this question honestly and not be afraid of what my answer might do in the room. I hope that makes sense.
For what you said is, you hit the nail on the head, because whatever position you're going for, it is preparing your heart. For me, it's that I have to think through it and pray about it and really figure out whether this is the right position, right? I'll give you an example. So 2 years ago, Microsoft reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I was going through a lot personally, and it really had taken a back seat on just my profession. And so I was like, oh, that's interesting. Why would Microsoft want me, right? And I had those doubts, and I really had to sit back and pray about it, that this was something that God was putting before me as an opportunity, and had to know that I was okay with that, because the position was in Seattle and really was going to require me to move. And so you're right. It's not just a day. It's preparation. And to be honest with you, in that position, for the most part, a lot of times from recruiters, you'll hear, well, do research on the company, do research on the products, do research on the people that you're going to interview with. Write down questions that you want to ask them. I think we all know that. Those are things that we write down. But I will admit, for that position in particular, that as much as I found it intriguing and appealing, I didn't do a lot of that, because I really wanted God to just guide me. I really wanted Him to just show me if this was the right opportunity. And I don't know why, but Paulette, something that you said reminded me of the last question I was asked in my interview. One of the vice presidents for licensing said, why do you want to come to Microsoft? And I said, actually, why do you want me at Microsoft? Right? Why I didn't apply for this job. In fact, I didn't find this job. I have a job. I'm happy where I'm at. You've got my resume. If you think I'm a good fit and I'm okay being in Texas, then make me an offer. Otherwise, I'm happy with who I am and where I'm at. And so that's when you know that you really have prepared your heart for that position. And I share with you that because I think that's just an important piece of preparation.
Just drop the mic. Just walk out. Why do you want me? Okay, I'm the prize here, brother. That is awesome. I'll let you.
I really just want to reiterate what has already been said, and I love that so much of the counsel is coming from a spiritual perspective. Everyone knows what is typical when it comes to, you can Google and find out the top 10 ways to prepare for an interview. So there's no hidden secret sauce to what's already out there, but what is coming from, even from this panel, is more of the spiritual perspective, which will set you free. And my personal counsel is in addition to what has been said, but that if you will trust in the sovereignty of the Lord and not place your job or future in the hands of the interviewer, then you'll go into that interview not gripped with fear, not desperate, but knowing that ultimately God is sovereign. And if this is his door for you, the door's going to open. It frees you up. Just helps you to be who you are without all that pressure to say the right thing, do the right thing. Forget all of that and just be who you are and trust that ultimately God will make the call on whether it's the right role for you or not. If you can be in that place of trust when you go into an interview, you will be who you really are.
Just from a spiritual perspective, that was so good. I'm thinking about Jesus when he got baptized by his cousin John the Baptist and came out of the water and heard his father say, "This is my beloved son, whom I'm well pleased." Think about the job that he had on his hands waiting for him, to be the savior of the world, and being led into the wilderness, and after 40 days and launching his ministry, and it transformed the world 2,000 years later. No person, yes, he was fully God, he was fully man, but no person can carry that kind of weight by himself. And the liberty in that, and the liberty for us, when we're getting ready to step into a job that we think is too big for us, whether it's Microsoft or being a campus pastor or director of HR, when you're getting ready to step into that, knowing that who I am is not based on my performance, but it's based on who I am in Christ, will set you free. And when you step into that interview with the understanding that my value does not come from a paycheck, it doesn't come from you telling me I got the job, it doesn't come from an offer letter from you, it comes from who I am in Christ. You are going to walk in there with such a freedom, it's going to put everybody in the room at ease. So I think preparing your heart is knowing who you are in Christ and recognizing that you can have the power in the interview to say, "No, well, why do you want me? I didn't ask to be here." And they're like, "Well, hold on, let me tell you. Matter of fact, hold on, let's raise that level of pay we're going to give you. Here's God's favor on your life." And knowing that your life is in the hands of the Father and not your direct oversight will give you a position of freedom that you never thought possible.
That's so good. That's so good.
And let me just say that you never know what type of impact you'll make, because I'll tell you how that story ended. I got a call from the hiring manager, who ended up being my manager for a short while, and she said, "We've decided to give the position to someone internally, but we like you so much, we will create a position for you.
Come on. Praise God.
Right.
And
Come on.
in 6 months, we will promote you." So you never know, right, what opportunities there are.
Yes.
Just to kind of piggyback off what everyone here has said, what I'm looking for in that preparation piece is, does this person actually have something to give, or are they actually going to take from the environment because of insecurity or a place of lacking in identity? I talk a lot about being a giver or a taker. If you are a perfectionist and you're actually looking for a position or an oversight to fill a need or a hole that you have to feel good about yourself, you are actually going to take from the environment, from the culture. And I don't want those people on my team. I actually want people who know who they are, right? And because, Scripture tells us, because you have freely received, you can freely give. And so I want people who are in a place, they're not looking for the validation or to feel good about what they're doing. They're actually securing who they are, and they can have something to give and contribute to the environment, to the culture, to the team, to the work. And to me, that's like the intangible that you have to do the work here. That's not going to be in a Google Doc that you look up of how to prepare for an interview. What do I actually have to give? What do I have to contribute? What is it about me that I'm bringing to the table that I can actually give away because I've freely received?
I don't even, my questions just kind of seem like they should fall over here and they should all just keep talking. I want to let y'all know, as we continue, I do have time set aside for y'all to ask specific questions, but feel free to interrupt anything I'm asking for anything that y'all may want to know personally. So all of y'all have mentioned a little bit of the tell me about yourself portion. So obviously there's many different interview styles. The background I come from, you had about 60 seconds to tell people about yourself. And then obviously we heard Gateway, we have more of that, 4 to 6 minutes. And so tell us a little bit about that. Whether you're looking for the larger chunk or a shorter chunk, what are you looking for in that, what I guess I would call an elevator speech?
brainstorming for the interview process. What I know to be true is that when people just open their mouth and they start talking about themselves, if you listen, they will tell you who they are. And that is what we want. We are wanting to know what your personality is, what the chemistry is, where you struggle, really how your mind thinks. It is, for you to try to script that out does you and the interviewer such a disservice, because then you're trying to be something that you think they want, as opposed to you just being who you are. So that's why I created that question. It's why I made it be that long, because I know there's no way you're gonna be able to practice or even think that I'm gonna ask you to talk for 6 minutes about yourself. And it throws people many times, because they're like, wait, what am I gonna say? Which then I know they're just speaking on the fly. They're just going off of whatever just comes into their mind, and I'm listening. I'm listening to see, is this person, am I sensing humility? Is there a teachability within that heart? Is there some brokenness there, so that I can sense that this person is really submitted and yielded? Is there a personality there that's funny, that's interactive? Is that person really intense? And none of those things are good or bad in and of themselves. It's whatever is right for you, and it's whatever is right for the interviewer. Is we're looking for a fit, even if you have all the job skills in the world. If you are aligned perfectly for that position, but you have a personality that's going to clash, or vice versa, you will not be happy. And people don't leave jobs because of pay, or because of job skill set, or not really even being fulfilled. They leave because they're unhappy in relationships. That's the number one reason that someone will leave. They've got a bad boss, and a lot of times maybe it's just a boss they didn't really fit well with, and vice versa. So there's a likability that comes into that, and when given that opportunity to just be yourself and to talk openly and to just speak from your heart, it is the most powerful part of the interview. I know usually within the first 5 minutes, is this someone that we can move forward with, or is this not a good fit? And that's only after asking one question.
So good.
I so want to know what you thought about me.
What were you thinking, Paulette? Tell me, please. She is brilliant, by the way. She is amazing. And I just to admonish and encourage Paulette in front of everyone. When she started this process, we made some mistakes, and we were like, you know what, we got to get better at hiring. She was the spearhead of us developing this process to bring a panel of people to interview with different strengths, skills, abilities, and talents, so that we can get a full 360-degree perspective of that person and all hear God together. And we have drastically improved our process at Gateway Church, and I just want to give kudos to Paulette for leading that charge. So great job. So there are two things that we look for in the interview process in terms of that 6 to 8 minutes that you asked about. And when we do that at the campus, there's two things that I'm looking for. If you've gotten to the place where you're interviewing with the high-level leaders, then that means you have the competency. Okay, so there's two C's: competency and culture. The two things I'm looking for, and I'm looking for those things to really come out. Now, if you've gotten to this place where you're interviewing with the leaders at the campus or within the organization, that means you have the competency. Your resume has come through clean. You've interviewed and done well. Now we're screening for culture. And as Paulette said, I want to know, are you going to clash, or are you going to take us to a higher level? Can you get along with the team and help build camaraderie, or are you going to try to tear the house down? So if you can come in and help build camaraderie and create a pleasant working atmosphere, then most likely you're going to make it to the end, as long as God puts his thumbs up or gives a green light on that. So culture and competency are the two things that we're looking for. And I want to see some of that personality. I want to see some of that DNA come out in that 6 to 8 minutes, wrapped in authenticity, genuineness, vulnerability, and honesty.
Very well said. One of the a part of the culture for Microsoft is helping other people succeed, and so which I really love about that company, and I look for in interviewing. And I think Kelly, you brought this out earlier. Is I'm looking for, what do you bring to the table? How are you going to add? What are your assets, right? Or and then what do you also feel like are areas for your improvement? What are your weaknesses? And that you're transparent about that, and that's okay. I think it's important that we're So what do you bring to the table? And I think the other thing is just your personality and how are you going to work with others. We don't want a group of people that are all alike. We want people that complement each other. And so how do you fit in that puzzle? And who are you truly? And again, I think once you get to the point of tell us about yourself, we've got your resume, we know your education, we know your experience, but that gives you an opportunity to highlight something about you that will resonate with the people that are interviewing. What are we going to remember about you, and what can we take away about you? I think the other thing that I like to hear in that 6 to 8 minutes or however much time you have to, I usually give you like, tell me in 2 to 3 minutes, tell me about yourself. I know it's not a lot of time, so sometimes I'll let you can go up to 5 minutes or so. But I want to know what you enjoy doing. I want to know that there's a balance to your life. I love that you're in health and wellness, because for me, health and wellness it includes 6 pillars, and it can be physical, it can be nutrition, it's emotional, mental, spiritual, social. There's all those gamuts that kind of fit in to make you a balanced person. So what do you enjoy doing? Do you like to go rock climbing and on the weekends? Do you enjoy playing with your kids? I want to know who you are, because I think that's important as well.
Let's see. I think I talked a little bit about one of the things that's most important to me is what you have to give versus taking. For us, in working in the nonprofit world, anti-trafficking, everybody wants to be involved with vulnerable children, but our kids have already been exploited. So if you're actually looking to take from them, then you're actually exploiting them for your own gain. So that's the big intangible for me in looking for: are you a healthy individual, and do you have something to give? And then back to what she was saying a minute ago of, what are you passionate about? Passion is again, one of the intangibles that I'm looking at. I don't care if it's doing puzzles on the weekend. Like, are you passionate about something, or is your life completely centered around work? Because passion is contagious. I don't care what you're doing or what you're talking about. If it's your kids, if it's a hobby, if it's health and wellness, if it's your work, like, passion is contagious. So I want passionate people. And at the end of the day, like, we actually are a fun team. And fun is my intangible. You could check every box, but if I don't feel like you're fun, you're not going to get hired. So, because we do heavy work, and it can feel really intense. And so at the end of the day, like, we're going to pop popcorn on our popcorn machine in our office, and we're going to celebrate people's birthdays, and we put a gong in our office, and every time that we have something really cool happen, we go hit the gong, and we all run around and we celebrate and we scream, because it's part of our culture and who we are. We need to find a way to make fun in the midst of heavy things. So for me, yes to everything that they said. Those are my intangibles when I'm looking for actually hiring.
That's so good. Just to reiterate what they said, it's so funny, and Rhonda could even speak to this because she hired me, but when she read my resume, she was like, no, like, this girl will not fit this job. But when I came in, and just in that tell me about yourself portion, I started explaining my passion and first-year experience and students and the student life experience. She might say completely differently. I probably shouldn't speak for her, but that portion is why I'm here today. So just know your resume is important, which I may have y'all speak to that in a second, but your resume is important, but know who you are and whose you are as well, right, when you go in. But even practically speaking, my husband, every time he would have a job interview, he would call me and be like, my name is Ryan Mason, and I do XYZ, and this is what I like to do on the weekends. And like, he would just go through the whole thing because he knew how vital it was to be able to talk about something other than what's on a piece of paper. Because I can tell you, probably my first interview post-college, I walked in and was like, my name is Danelle, and I went to Tarleton State University, and I got a degree in communications, and I was involved in Greek life, and they're just like checking it off the resume, like, oh, okay, cool. So just know there's more to you than what's on that piece of paper. So Brianna, you had touched on a little bit something that we wanted to speak into. So we know a lot of interviewers do ask about, tell me about your strengths, tell me about your weaknesses. Obviously, strengths are a lot easier to talk about other than your weakness, but our question is, how vulnerable or how transparent are you in those weaknesses? Because obviously, I'm a procrastinator, but if you're a heavy project, company or group, that may not look well.
Absolutely. first was like, that's a trick question. They really don't want to know my weakness. And, you know, now that I'm kind of on the other side, I interview, and I think I've come a long way too from talking about my weaknesses, is that it is important. You're human. We make mistakes. But we want to know, like, what is your weakness and what are you doing about it, right? Okay, so you're a procrastinator. Are you just kind of, I mean, is that going to impact the work? Or what are you doing about it? Well, you know, so I procrastinate, but I'm really, you know, I've been trying to, you know, either take a course or read a book, or I'm really working hard on that, or I would love to learn more about different styles that, you know, that other people use to maybe not procrastinate. I think it's really important that you show that you aren't coming in as perfect, and you don't just have strengths, but you're actually human, and you do have weaknesses. And so that's what is part of your transparency and who you are, and being honest with that. And I think that really, when people talk about their weaknesses, and they don't just say, well, I don't have a weakness, you know, it really sticks out for me. I had someone who came and was like, I really can't think of a weakness. I have, you know, this is my strength, I can't really think of a weakness. And I was like, oh, okay. And so we left it alone. What I appreciated about that person was literally that afternoon, they sent me an email and said, I've really given this some thought, and I do have a weakness, and this is my weakness, and this is what happened, you know, and this is how I, you know, rectified the situation, or how I, you know, fixed it, or whatever it may be. And I appreciated the fact that they actually came back after thoughtful consideration. And you can do that. You can be like, I can't think of one right now, but circle back around and say, you know what, I've come up with something. I think that's important.
That question is so amazing because it actually is multifaceted, and that if you come and interview at Gateway, we want you to be gut level honest, just so that you know. If you ever come and interview at Gateway, we want you to go full on, tell us the full honesty of what it is that you're struggling with. But as Brianna was talking about, it's really twofold. We ask that question, and we do in all of our interviews as well, and we ask it for two reasons. Number one, if you will be honest about what they are, then it speaks to your teachability, because no one is exempt from having strengths and weaknesses. So your ability to actually be honest in that moment and talk about what you struggle with, it will not surprise an interviewer. What will be a red flag to us is that if you say you have none. Or the classic line is, well, I really just care too much about it. Like, that is the one that I hear the most often, because it's the most innocuous. It's like, you're kind of admitting something, but you're really not. You're making your weakness sound like a virtue, and so that in itself speaks to something. So my encouragement to you is to be honest about it, and to let that interviewer know from your heart, this is what I'm struggling with. This is an area where I've been working on. It's something I've made improvement on, but the truth of it is I'm a work in progress. That will resonate with an interviewer, because that's truth.
So we heard somebody answer this question earlier today, and this person answered it really, really well, because I think the initial question was somewhere along the lines of, how am I honest but not completely expose myself, right? Like, how do I walk that line? And this question was asked earlier today, and the response was great. This person said, my struggle, and I don't even think they said that, but it's discipline. I have to work on discipline. There's times when I let my mind wander, or I get away from things, and I have to work to stay good. So rather than this person saying, well, I procrastinate, you know, I just thought their choice of words was really, really good, because it still communicates the same thing. And they were being very honest. I just thought that was a great way to say it. And I think it showed in this person agility, professional agility, being able to understand how to carry that line really well. Because you don't want to come in and go, my weakness is just an 8-hour workday. I'm just telling you, I'm just really struggling. Like, you're not going to get that job. I'm just telling you, like, it's not going to work. And so, be professional. Like, be prepared to give a professional response, because they're looking for honesty, but they want you to exude professionalism, because they know when you get out of that room, you will be professional out there as well as you represent their company. And I think if you really, like, just to go back to this, and if we're giving too spiritual of an answer, I'm sorry, but if you really struggle with what your weaknesses are, then you're also struggling with what your strengths are. So I would love to be able to throw the football like Tom Brady. That ain't never going to happen for me, right? Like, I'm just not going to get there. And if I don't understand that as a weakness, then I won't understand what my strengths actually are. If I can't identify what my issues are, right, and try to steer myself towards my strengths more than try to work on my weaknesses, it's going to be an issue for me. So for me, if you're in an interview, your ability to call out your weaknesses actually helps me understand that you can see your strengths as well, which is a benefit. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off of that because earlier when this interviewee was asked that question and he said, I struggle with discipline, he specified what type of discipline he struggles with. And he says, I'm very disciplined when it comes to exegeting the word and studying and the things that I'm passionate about. I'm very disciplined. But over here, I lack discipline. I'm growing in that. And I've been surrounding myself with people who are strong in those areas so that I can leverage my weaknesses. So that's a higher level of clarity in regard to your weaknesses. But here's the reality. If you know who you are and you're confident in who you are, then God will supply every need by bringing someone who has that as a strength so that you can focus on your strength and you can be better as an organization. So again, it just brings more value to being comfortable with your weaknesses because it's going to bring greater clarity to your greatest contribution.
Drop it. It's so good, and I think it just reminds us again of that self-awareness that we need to have and that self-reflection, the time of just truly knowing who you are. When you said something you just said, I wish I could remember your exact words, it made me think of our team just because of that exact, if we were the same person, we would not get anything done in our office because I'm heavily task achievement oriented and she's very people oriented. And so when it comes to what we do in our office, it's an amazing balance. And I'm not afraid to share, I'm not as people oriented as I should, but what's also amazing about knowing that weakness is it's something you are continually working on. And that intentionality that you have to work on that creates it to one day it might actually be a strength because you're so aware of it. So we have just about 10 minutes left. So I want to kind of switch gears into just full-blown practicality, if y'all don't mind, and then allow for some questions. So super practical. What stands out on a resume to you all?
Because we look at a lot of them. One page, one page, one page.
Yeah, amen. Thank you, Jesus.
We do not have time to read all that you've done in your 37 bullets under your one position as a cashier somewhere. So that is the truth. One page, one page, one page. And it needs to be, if you want to stand out, then stand out. Do something, come up with one of the new templates that are available, the old standard templates that are very boring. Now, that's what the majority of the interviews, the majority of the resumes are that we receive. Find something unusual. Do something in color, but do something that's on trend. Do something that's professional. Do something that will stand out and keep it at one page. There's a lot of new resumes out there that are actually a completely different format, that'll have, the whole layout is different. I wish I had a sample of one today, but it might have your top 5 strengths, a picture at the top, a little bit of blurb at the bottom. It's a completely different format. Those are my go-tos. While that person is on trend, they know what's happening, they know what catches your eye, so that draws me to them. So find a template that's very unique and keep it at one page.
And I'll just add to all those great points by saying that as we look at the job description, if you have something that you've done that's transformed the organization under your leadership, if you've built something from the ground up, if you took a part of the company from negative revenue to positive X number of dollars in this amount of time, those are the things that speak volumes. They're going to catch our attention or catch the interviewer's attention because you're now a leader with influence. And that's what a church, that's what a company wants. They want influencers, they want leaders, they want builders. So show that in a very succinct way, and it will grab the interviewer's attention.
Absolutely. One page, key points, because we can go on and on about all the different things that you did in a particular position, but what sets you apart from what you did in that position that somebody else may have done? I'm looking for things like, for me, I'm just bullet points. And then I will also go to anything that's kind of experience, but I also look on the bottom at like other things, like have you written an article? Have you done something different? Or do you belong to an organization? Again, it shows me that you're balanced. And so I want something different, unique that just pops out.
Before you hit submit on your resume, go check your social media. Because you will get trolled. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
They're gonna check, and that picture that you buried of yourself of spring break 5 years ago, it will be found.
I don't know if I have anything else to contribute. I feel like you guys covered everything. I think being succinct is really important, and I think also not being afraid to highlight your achievements and kind of what Mondo said. One of the things that's also a big red flag for me is false humility. Like, you actually need to be confident enough to be able to communicate clearly what you've done and how awesome you are in a humble way, not in a bragging like I'm so impressive, but like, no, I actually bring something to the table, right? And you should want me in a good, healthy way, right? So I think that's one of the red flags for me, but I think what they said really, be succinct, be able to communicate. I love what Mondo said, like, show me how you've transformed something. One of the girls that actually, the young woman that's one of our live-in staff at our USA Restoration Home was talking to me the other day, and she's like, what do I have to put on a resume? She's like, I tutor the kids, I help them, I cook dinner, like I run them. She's like, I'm a glorified Uber driver is what it feels like some days. And I'm like, no, that's actually where ministry happens, is in the car. I need you to change your thinking about what you're doing because you're building relationships with trauma victims, right? Like you're actually building rapport with them in unique and creative ways. Like I actually had to switch her mindset of what that looks like. She actually wants to apply for a PhD program. And I'm like, girl, you are a slam dunk. They're gonna want you. But she's like, look, these are the things that I feel like I've done. And I'm like, no. Let's talk about what those things are actually doing, right? So sometimes you just have to change and get some input and some perspective on the things that you have accomplished, because a lot of times we will downplay that rather than be like, no, that actually was significant. You know what I mean? Like that actually takes a level of confidence to say, no, that was significant. I actually made a deposit here. I made a difference here. I transformed something that was broken, right?
Sorry. Another thing I would do is, as you look at the job description and you're looking at your experience, highlight those experiences that align with the job description. Because then we know that you have that experience in that area.
I think another thing that's helpful when you're writing that resume is have someone that knows you with you. That can also help with that thought process. When I remember my very first resume, I mean, I was a college grad, I had worked at Cotton Patch, and I had worked on campus, and I had joined a lot of organizations, but I didn't know what that translated to in the corporate or the secular world. And so someone who had corporate experience was able to give me the words, but also in the same way in the spiritual mindset was able to transform my thinking on the things that I had accomplished. Because sometimes we don't see like, oh, I did X, Y, Z as a task. We don't see what the outcome actually is. So I know you had a question?
You said to have one-page resume. Does that mean like one side, or can it be double-sided?
One side.
Okay.
Okay, 2 more rapid practical questions and then we'll open up for questions. What do you wear?
I think it's really important in how you carry yourself and how you present yourself. I'm not really looking for like something that's flashy or impressive. I just want to know that you're presenting yourself with confidence, that you care about how you appear, and really the intangible is the presence that you bring. So wear something professional. If you're in a job that's looking for something like on trend, like be on trend, still be professional, don't be overly like, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but be on trend, be professional, but really it's how you carry yourself and how you present yourself.
Understand the culture of the organization that you're going to work for. I mean, I think she's got a great point. I'm not going to be able to show up in a cool culture and exude cool. I'm just too old. I mean, I just can't do that. So understand what on trend means and what that culture is. That's great.
I completely agree. Just it's how you carry yourself and just look professional. At bare minimum, just business casual. A lot of organizations now it's very casual. I mean, I go to work in jeans and t-shirts, right? But just because everyone's wearing jeans and t-shirts doesn't mean that when I'm interviewing for a position, I'm going to wear jeans and t-shirts. And I have even found that when I come in and I interview for another position within the company,
guy came in, he had on high waters. This was when high waters were not cool. Okay, right now, high waters are cool. But this is when they weren't cool. So he had high waters on, brother had on no socks and ashy ankles. It was just not a good combination. It's just like, come, man, seriously, how you gonna care for part of the company you can't put lotion on your ankles? So he didn't get the job. We were distracted. We were staring at his ankles the whole time. What is that? Are those gray tights or is that ash? What? I got some lotion here. Just put some lotion on, brother. Come on, right here. So I would just say, just come professional. Bring the best of who you are. Be confident, but look professional.
Not to belabor the point, all these are absolutely true. Be sensitive to anything that could be a distraction. Don't wear that giant pair of earrings that you love, that maybe you're the only one that loves them. Maybe don't wear a neon pink skirt. These are things, come looking sharp. And maybe be careful with how much cologne or perfume you put on that day, how dark your lipstick is. You just don't want anything that looks just overdone. You just always want a balance. And so if you'll just aim for sharp and professional, and if you lean more towards more of the outgoing kind of, something really visible, then maybe pull that back. And if you're more demure and just more simple in your dress, then just make sure you take it up a notch so that you're a little more professional. You won't miss it if you do that.
Okay, and then as I walk back, I will say we used to, when we had, in my last job, we worked with military veterans, and so when we would have a hiring conference, we would go through the what do you wear piece, and one of the things that was my favorite that they always said is the guys need to wear a power tie. Whether it's a blue suit with that red tie, y'all can probably speak to that, but something that sticks out. I know for me, it was always just like you said, Paulette, your makeup was very much, would you say toned down, not toned up, very neutral, very subtle, but I always like to say, be you, which is what they said. Express yourself, but don't go over the top with that, but be memorable, just like you want to be on paper. You want to be memorable in the interview, and you also want to be memorable in your presence and in your appearance. So then, I know y'all have questions. Just kind of nod your head yes or no, and if you want to elaborate, you can. Is a thank you note or email still necessary after the interview process?
Necessary?
I appreciate it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, but it's not
It's one of
necessary.
those things that makes that person stick out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's noted in my mind. But,
Right.
It shows follow through.
It does.
Yes,
Attention to
absolutely.
detail.
Yes.
Note to self, right? I think you know. So whenever you're finishing up the interview process, we didn't really get to talk about this, but your close is just as much important as your open. Whether it's just a great showing of gratitude and appreciation for their time. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me. How Brianna ended her interview that time, I mean, that's going to give you mad props. However you want to end that, but be prepared when they say, do you have any questions for me? Don't just say, oh no, I'm good, thank you. Don't say that. And don't say, what's my pay going to be? What's my vacation hours going to be?
Yes.
Don't ever look for what they're going to give you. Whenever you're interviewing, you want to make sure you're asking questions about them. So, was this position here before, or is it being created? Was the person promoted, or did they leave the job? What did they do well? What are you looking for in this position? What did they do poorly?
I'll take that.
Get it, girl. Better preach it. Preach it.
Robin recruiting. So just think through some of those questions that resonate with you so that you can end in that way. And always clarify, is there anything about my resume that's confusing? Is there anything about this interview that makes you a little bit uncomfortable with me in this position that I can clarify for you? So just think through those, and we'll open up for questions real quick, but Alika's going to tell us about a few more resources. I know some of you need to get to go to class, so make sure you fill out your worksheet evaluation. Alika's going to give resources, and if you can hang out, they'll be here for some extra questions, okay?
Okay, Danelle did a great job, also our panel. Thank you guys so much for sharing. So real quick, I wanted to add on something. I'm definitely people-oriented, so when I do interviews, I actually love to flip the questions onto the people that interviewed me. So I ask them, what drove you here? What are you passionate about? What do you like about your company? What's the culture about your company? And I find that it just kind of gives them something to take, and then they walk away feeling like rejuvenated or joyful because I kind of brought them back to that place of, this is why I like this. This is why I love what I do. So that's just something that I love to do. So we have 2 resources that you guys can check out. The first website is called The Muse. So it might be themuse.com, you can Google the Muse. So they have several different articles about being in the business world, how to interview, how to send emails. Like, it's just a really, really great resource. The next one is called the Interview Guys, and so that's gonna help you with your basics of interview. They have templates for emails, what does it look like protocol-wise. After you do the interview, after you send the thank you email, you still haven't heard anything. So they have really great resources on what it looks like practically to move forward. So now we're going to open it up for questions. So does anyone have any questions so far?
So you may have addressed this already earlier, sorry, you may have addressed this earlier, but other than the 6 to 8 minute question and how to dress and what's on the resume, what really stands out to you the most?
Can I answer that real quick? One of the things that I generally want to know, in addition to all of those things, is how do you actually handle failure? So we're not looking for perfectionists that the minute they make a mistake, they're done, right? They drop, like they can't handle that, they can't recover. So that's one of the intangibles that I'm looking for that's going to stick out to me is tell me about a time that you failed and how did you recover? So, because we need people, we do hard work and we're taking new ground every day and we're trying new things and some things work and some things don't. And so I need to know that you're resilient, you actually have some grit to you in the midst of failure. So that's always the one thing that always sticks out to me.
Can I add to his real quick? To her answer. Man, it's different for every role. You know what I'm saying? Like, to give you one specific, her answer is much more grown up than mine, but I mean, I just, you know, if we're interviewing for, you know, a pastor or a sales manager or, you know, something in a different way, that the answer to that question will be shaped by what we need to find. What's the goal? So you need to understand the role, right? You need to have some understanding of what it is that you're coming into, and what do you think the objections will be will help you to answer those questions. Like, what do I believe they're looking for? You're not going to know that, but it can help you really be in your preparation to think that through.
So I think for me, one of the questions that I'll ask in the interview is this, and it's a hard question, and I know this from experience because I was asked this question and it kind of knocked me off my square, and I was like, oh Lord Jesus, help me right now. I need you, Lord. Start praying in tongues. Praise the Lord. So the question is, what is your greatest insecurity? The reason why that question is so powerful is because everyone in the interview is on the edge of their seat knowing that if you fluff on this question, they're going to read right through it. And you as the interviewee know that if I fluff on this, they're going to read right through me. So you got to make a decision, and it puts you at a fork in the road. You really can't prepare for that. So I'll just be transparent. So for me, during that time, I looked a little different than I look right now. I had hair, okay? And the real insecurity that I dealt with was my hair because I was thinning. Some of it just got raptured up early, and now all of it's got raptured. So they asked me, and I told them, I was like, my hair, I mean, I'm like, you know, taking extra long and trying to style it. I'm combing stuff over. I mean, I don't know what to do with this thing. So it opened up a moment in the interview where the leaders who were interviewing me were transparent with me. And it created this connection. And the reason why the connection was so vital and so important is because I now felt like I could trust them, and there was a bond that was created. But then they also felt like they could trust me. And I walked away from a beat up like, oh man, they're gonna think, what is this guy talking about? You know, what is that about? But it was a real moment, and it was real for me, and I was authentic. So for me, I'm looking for authenticity and genuineness, an ability to communicate in a truthful manner. And if a person is comfortable with who they are and they can communicate that with confidence, but yet humility wrapped around it, that's going to stand out.
So good. That's so funny. It's all so good. So y'all know that anytime you apply, or you may not know this, anytime you apply for any position, that interviewer or that company will have knockout questions, so that if there are certain questions answered a certain way, then you're not considered. You're just denied. And so a knockout characteristic for me in any interview is that no matter how qualified you are, no matter how great you look on a resume, no matter how high your skill set is, if you come across in an interview as not teachable, I will not hire you. That's a knockout characteristic for me. And teachability teachability really speaks to humility, because I'll take someone who has much less in their job skill area, but they're teachable, and I'll hire that person any day of the week over a highly skilled individual who is a know-it-all or has a lot of arrogance, because there's not a teachability there. There's not ability to interact with other people. So for me, a knockout would definitely be if someone is not humble.
I have two questions. I'm gonna have to narrow it down. Here we go. So, obviously, I'm an older guy, and I tend to have a lot of experience, but I don't always have a lot of education that goes along with my experience. So that's part of my education, is I'm really trying to develop my passion and calling. So what advice would you give to someone like me that maybe has 15 or 20 years of experience in a certain area, but not a master's or a doctorate degree? Do you put more weight on one or the other? Like, how would you advise me as far as moving forward in my career?
Well, the trend of about middle-aged Americans going back to school and getting their education is so high, and it has been phenomenal just to see so many universities where the majority of their students, or about 50%, are actually middle-aged and older. It is such a powerful decision to make, and it's one that I know that I look at and highly respect, because you have so many other dynamics going on in your life. You could be married, you have children, you have so many other responsibilities. So it depends on the position that you're applying for. There are some that you cannot get around the qualifications. In many of your professional positions, they're going to require a degree, a master's. It all depends on what you're applying for. When at Gateway specifically, what we are looking for is as Pastor Mondo spoke to, there's a culture, character, and integrity. There's so many core values that we have that we're looking for. So in a ministry position, you're not disqualified by the lack of education or by degrees. That's not our focus. Our focus is the heart. But it all depends on specifically what position you're looking for. So, but we just so congratulate you for going back to school. It's an honorable thing to do. And those students, it's just a completely different world. With my background, having been in education before this, and a good friend of mine who's in education at DBU, it is amazing to see what middle-aged Americans going back to school. They are some of the best students because they're so eager and they don't take it for granted. So great that you're going back to school.
She said it can't disqualify you, but it can't qualify you. You can't let it qualify. I have this degree, now I can't. You can't do that.
I would add to that, be confident in your experience. You bring a lot to the table. You know, even right now when you're asking the question, you kind of shied away of like, well, I don't have a lot of education, but I have a lot of experience. Your experience says a lot. So much happens in people's lives that we don't necessarily know about, and it's how you come across, and it's the part of, you know, this is what I bring to the table. I have these years of experience, but I'm going back to school. So many corporations and most of the ones I've worked for, specifically to Microsoft, we have programs where we pay for you to go back to school. So don't downplay that. You know, be confident about it.
Okay. And just to add one last nugget to that is, like, I value education. I have a master's degree. Like, I'm a learner, so I love it. But at the same time, I just need to make sure that the people that we're hiring, that it's not all stuck in here, but it's actually applicable. So it doesn't do any good if it's all up here and you've got a bunch of letters behind your name. I need to know that you actually know and you have the experience of how to apply what you've learned.
What I would say is stay humble and stay hungry. And the reason why I say that is because the experience can have a tendency to want to make you have a little pride. And I'm not saying that that's you, but that could be a temptation to be prideful. Hey, I have way more experience than this guy just getting out of college. But then on the other side of that, with the lack of education, which you're getting right now, there can also be a tendency to want to shrink back a little bit. And that's where you need to stay hungry and continue to press in. And with the education coupled with the experience, it's just going to give you a leg up.
That's great. Thank you.
Any final questions?
Hi, well, I wanted to ask, is it appropriate to handshake your panel when you come in for the interview?
For a handshake?
Yeah, like the way you are, just like hi, or just hello. What's appropriate?
I'm a handshaker.
Yeah.
And I actually judge people on their handshakes.
I do
I'm a handshaker. I initiate the handshake. I don't wait for them to shake my hand because I feel like I'm there to make an impression. And again, I know who I am. I know what I'm bringing to the table, and I want to know more about them. So, and I will judge you on your handshake. If you give me a fishy little flimsy handshake, that immediately communicates insecurity to me. And I want you to know that you're going to grip my hand like I am here, and I have a presence, and I want you to remember me. So, yeah, it's important.
Amen.
So handshakes are important to me as well, and I judge you on your handshake. But I have also worked for foreign companies. I've worked for a Japanese company, and I've worked for a Chinese company. So I sometimes will, depending on, like, I read up on kind of their culture before I go and interview. But I also then kind of read the person, and I have been in some interviews where, you know, it's just kind of they kind of do a bow and they don't necessarily shake your hand. Some of them will. So you may have that experience, you may not, but for the most part, I think handshakes are good.
So body language is critical. 93% of our communication is everything that we do outside of speaking. So what you do in terms of shaking a hand or going in for a hug, I would say just come prepared, but just come prepared with a smile. And as you smile, they're going to initiate, like Kelly said, you're coming in for the interview. So she's going to either initiate a handshake for you, or she's going to open up and initiate a hug. Just be prepared for either one. I've gone in for the hug, and I'm like, okay, here we go. Nice to meet you too. And then you go in for the handshake, and they're like, no, come on. So just be prepared with a smile and a pleasant presence, but be confident, and the body language is going to speak for you.
I think partly you answered my question, because I wanted to ask about the smile. How much smile can somebody smile?
Very important. The smile is very important.
Well, if we had a smile like you, we'd all